What's good YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Lars in Conditioning. How long should you have trained before you start using intensity techniques and what are they? Firstly, what is intensity techniques? It's training methods that allows you to train even harder than you already are. Perhaps the two most well known is supersets and drop sets. Now what are the difference between these two? Supersets, you do two exercises back to back. Drop sets, you do a set, you reduce the rate, you do a set, reduce the rate, and then you repeat this pattern a few times. These are the difference between these two. However, there are different goals with both. However, when should you start using them? Probably not as soon as you think. The difference between the two and when you should be using them can depend quite a bit. If we use supersets as the first thing, in order to use supersets effectively, you actually need to have strength built in the first place. If you're brand new and you hardly have any strength to speak of in the first place, then you can't really do drop sets, because the idea with a drop set is that you do a set and reduce the weight, and then you do repeat this a few times. If you just started and you hardly have any weight on, you don't have any weight to reduce with drop sets from basically at all, so you can't even use them. What about supersets then? Well, with supersets it's basically two exercises back to back. But what if your technique is bad and your cardiovascular ability is a huge limiting factor? Well, then you can't do them, because if you have bad technique, especially if you do free weight movement, then it's simply going to be a recipe for injury. So you need to have some sort of base built in the first place and actually have technical skill in place already, and then also have your cardiovascular ability not be a limiting factor. So if you can't do two exercises back to back without it being a huge limiting factor, then it's just a no-go for you. Then you may ask, are there other intensity techniques that can actually be used? Yes, we have cluster sets, density training, rest pause, complexes. There's a lot of different things that you can actually use. However, the same issues arises here as they do with the others. If you do not have a certain level of strength or cardiovascular ability built in place before you start using these, then you just can't really use them in the first place. Complexes basically takes the limiter of supersets and amp it up. Complexes, it's multiple compound movements back to back to back, at least 3 upwards of 6. So if you do not have the ability to push through just a regular superset, then something like complexes is going to be a million times worse for you. So those are non-negotiable things for you to actually try. What do all intensity techniques have in common? The one thing they all have in common is that they allow you to drive up the volume, which is the main thing we need for muscle growth and strength. So this is what the primary share between all of them. And when you are new as well, and you haven't built a base, your volume tolerance is really low, so you don't really need that more volume in the first place. So you actually don't have grounds for start using them in your first 1 to maybe even 2 years of lifting, because you need to have a base built up and you need to have technical skill built up in the first place as well before you dive into these things. So what are our recommendations of when you should start using intensity techniques? You need to give it a 1 to 2 good years of training, not just 1 or 2 years where you follow bad advice, where you don't really get any progress at all. You need to have 1 to 2 good years of solid training where you get progress for these 1 to 2 years. Otherwise, you do not have any grounds to use them. Just like with drop sets, you need a certain level of strength before you can actually use it. If you're going to perform a drop set as an example, and you need to reduce the weight by 20% with every drop, you need a certain amount of strength before you can use drop sets for anything at all. So just building up to be able to use drop sets properly, you're going to need 1 or 2 years of good training. Same things goes for all the other intensity techniques that exist. You do not have grounds for them yet. Thank you for watching. Lars in Conditioning, signing out. I hope you have an awesome day.